Well, I just wonder, had that law enforcement been there on the steps of the Sydney Opera House when the Israeli flag was set alight, when "Where are the Jews" was chanted? I mean, maybe it could have changed the trajectory of what we've seen over the last 2 and a bit years.
100%, and that displays the lie that this is a reaction to what Israel has done in Gaza, because on the 9th of October 2023, when those Opera House events occurred, Israel had done nothing, hadn't even prepared for its response of going into Gaza. So what were they doing? What were they rioting about? It was more a celebration of the attack that Hamas was successful in against Israel, slaughtering 1,200 people, taking 251 hostage, all the devastation in the south of Israel. And that's what they were there at the Opera House doing, and 0 arrests, despite a range of laws being broken. And that whole area has CCTV coverage and no arrests.
And nothing at all. No, exactly. Plus, the flags of terror groups being waved, week in, week out. It's been everything. Let's talk about Grace Tame, and here's a reminder of what happened last night.
From Gaza to Gaza!
David, how can that be an Australian of the Year? One of the highest, probably the highest honour you'll ever get in this country, and that's on display.
Look, it's an absolute disgrace. And I was looking at that and I was thinking, is that Grace Tame trying to emulate Greta Thunberg in some ways, jumping on every radical cause? But she's actually crossed an additional line. Calling Globalise the Intifada is calling for mass murder. There have been a couple of intifadas in Israel. It's characterised by suicide bombings, by blowing up buses with civilians in it, stabbing attacks, shooting attacks. An Australian girl, a daughter of a friend of mine, her name was Malka Roth, was blown up in a pizza parlour in Jerusalem in the Second Intifada. And we saw a bit of what Globalise the Intifada means when it was applied in Bondi Beach.
Yes.
That is what Globalise the Intifada looks like. Now, an Australian of the Year carries with it a status and responsibility. She has brought that institution into disrepute. She has therefore brought our country into disrepute. I know that it's an arm separate from government, the National Australia Day Council, but I think the government should recommend to that council that she be stripped of the award. It is inappropriate that she carries from this day forward the status of being an Australian of the Year.
I completely agree with you. It is not an honour to give somebody who really just throws it back into our faces, throws it back into the faces of Jewish Australians. I think it was absolutely appalling, and I completely agree with Barnaby Joyce's sentiments. He was very, very strong on this. I found this quite puzzling, David. Indigenous Australians Minister Malarndirri McCarthy, she's calling for racism against Indigenous Australians to be included in the Anti-Semitism Royal Commission. Now, what bothered me the most about this is, the Prime Minister was dragged kicking and screaming from the start to start a Royal Commission. But every time anti-Semitism is raised, Labor conflates it with Islamophobia. And now we have a Labor MP saying, well, we can't have an anti-Semitism Royal Commission without racism towards Aboriginals being included as well. What's your response to this?
Well, you've got to question whether there was ever the intent, even though he was dragged kicking and screaming, as you put it, to that point, to have a legitimate Royal Commission that focused on the actual subject. And I don't think it's good to mix those. I think that perhaps there should be an inquiry into Aboriginal issues broadly. I know that Senator Jacinta Price has been calling for that for some time, particularly the financial aspects. Okay, if that is a requirement, if that has benefits, do it. But we want the focus to be on the motivation, particularly of the people that undertook the massacre, which is radical Islam extremism,
Yes.
and what might have brought that to be. And that means having a look at the actions or inactions of government. It means having a look at the sort of things that were happening in the protests for the last couple of years, which helped to seed the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And so there's been escalation, leading to a massacre. So there needs to be a laser focus on causation.
Absolutely.
It's why our organisation had reservations about the hate speech laws.
Yes, of
because
course.
it raises a whole series of peripheral issues rather than focusing on what happened at Bondi Beach.
Absolutely, and this Royal Commission needs focus. There's so much that's happened. We can't be conflating this issue with this issue. It solely has to be focused on the last few years and more. David Adler, good to have you in the studio. Thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate your time.